Hi and welcome back on my channel. My name is Willow North and today we're gonna be talking about one of the neo-pagan Sabbats that modern witches really like to celebrate, Yule or Yuletide. So we're gonna go through what is Yule, how we celebrate it, and why. Celebrating the Sabbats is usually one of the first things that new witches do because it's simpler, it has like a specific date, and it has more of a purpose, I guess. So if you want to celebrate Yule this year, Yule is one of the lesser Sabbats, which means that it corresponds with a solstice or an equinox. In this case, it is a winter solstice. In the northern hemisphere, it is celebrated typically on December 21st, but it could range around the 20th and the 24th. In the southern hemisphere, it is between the 20th and the 23rd of June. In both cases, it is the winter solstice, which means that it is the shortest day of the year and the longest night of the year. And I mean, it's coming up and it is like 2:30 right now, and I did not think this through, and the sun is leaving. Goodbye. So today we're gonna go through a little bit of history and again why we celebrate it and how to celebrate Yule. And before I even start, you might even know this, but there are so many ways to celebrate it that are very much like Christmas. So if you do find similarities with Christmas, well, yes, you're right. And I'm really gonna try not to throw shades today. I just really hate hypocrisy, and this is full of it. So first of all, the word Yule probably comes from the Germanic, I forgot to check the pronunciations, god damn it. I'm gonna guess Yule, the Germanic this, and the Anglo-Saxon this, Yule, which referred to the feast of the winter solstice. So during Yule, we celebrate the return of the sun, the thing in the sky, or the sun god, or the sun king, also referred as the oak king, among other things. As I said, it is the longest night of the year, and we're plunged into darkness, but still we know that from that point on, the sun is gonna come back slowly but surely. Days are gonna get longer and longer and brighter. There is always a bit of wonder, and just like in our regular lives, sometimes when you're in a moment of darkness in your life, you really don't know when or how you're gonna get out of there and be in the light again. So Yule is also really a moment, the promise of the nature that it will for sure come back. So in the myth, the goddess gives birth to the male energy, also referred, as I said, as the oak king. He represents summer and the duality of the horned god that maybe you have heard of or not at all. I'm just throwing names right there, but like we're for sure gonna come back on them at some point in another video, but not today. It's essentially a time of rebirth for the sun itself, but also for all of us, humans in our souls. In some versions and other myths, winter comes because the sun god has become weak and sick, and the solstice is celebrated because the sun god is getting better. By the way, all that I'm saying today, I've taken from various sources. I'm gonna be linking them down all in the description if ever you want to read the whole thing, because I've left so many parts. So that is why we celebrate Yule. It's really the return of the sun. In this one article from Britannica, there's this one sentence that I really thought was interesting, because I'm going to be getting into the how we celebrate it, which is very similar, as I mentioned, to Christmas. Some people still argue why December 25th is Christmas or like the birth of Jesus Christ, because there is no specific reason or specific proof. It's not mentioned in the New Testament, it's not really mentioned anywhere. So there are several theories, and one of those theories is that it coincides with the winter solstice. When they were trying to bring pagans into becoming Christians, it made it easier to just blend in holidays together and just be like, yeah, you can, still do everything that you were doing, but now it's Christian. I'm gonna read that quote right now. It says, so indeed, after December 25th had become widely accepted as the date of Jesus' birth, Christian writers frequently made the connection between the rebirth of the sun sun and the birth of the sun. One of the difficulties with this view is that it suggests a nonchalant willingness on the part of the Christian church to appropriate a pagan festival when the early church was so intent on distinguishing itself categorically from pagan beliefs and practices. They soon discovered that they had to if they wanted to get them pagans on their side. Now here's how you can celebrate Yule. I'm gonna start by naming very common symbols that are now associated with Christmas, but that are at the very basis pagan. Hello sun, I'm talking about you. Oh my god, I just blinded myself. So probably the most iconic symbol of Christmas is the tree, the evergreen tree, and evergreen boughs that we put around our houses and outside our houses. Well, it's a very, very old tradition actually that many cultures, especially in Europe, did. I'm thinking the Romans, the Celtic Druids, the Vikings, they all had that same idea to bring evergreen trees and evergreen boughs into their homes because they represented and still represent the symbol of everlasting life. Again, sort of a promise that plants are gonna grow again and that green is gonna come back. It was especially important back in the day. Winter were very difficult months since they couldn't grow anything. Now we got it a little bit easier, but it's still, I think, important to acknowledge that and to be grateful for what we got and for the days to come. The official Christian origin of the Christmas tree dates from, I read both the 16th and the 17th centuries, and it's from Germany. However, it was observed before that. Another great symbol, if it's not the tree, it's gonna be Santa Claus. Now, that guy has a long history. So the name Santa Claus in America comes directly from the Dutch Santa Claus, which, if you say real quick, is Saint Nicholas. Saint Nicholas, Santa Claus, Santa Claus. Saint Nicholas was some Turkish saint, I believe, ultimately replaced the pagan figures because he probably had a similar purpose. But before Saint Nicholas was a Christmas figure, all of these European variations of Father Christmas and Santa Claus come from the pagan beliefs that around this time of year, spirits would travel the skies. Specifically in Scandinavia, they would be in company of Odin, the god Odin, who would ride in the sky on his white horse, who had 8 legs. He was the gift giver. He would go down chimneys and give gifts. And I wonder who else rides the sky during winter to bring gifts with 8 reindeers. So Santa Claus essentially is the modern representation of Odin. Which brings me to the cookies and the milk. The tradition of children leaving cookies and milk for Santa Claus, and in France a glass of wine. That possibly comes from the Norse mythology as well. Children would leave hay and food for Odin's horse so he wouldn't go hungry. And now some children leave carrots for the reindeers as well. So it's sort of like, you know, it really adds up. Now let's talk about that Yule log, shall we? Yes, it's called Yule log for a fucking reason. I mean, somehow it's become a cake now, but it used to be an actual log. The practice of the Yule log dates back to the Iron Age, so that was pre-medieval times. Again, it was the same area. The Germans, the Norse, the Celts, they would burn logs that they had previously decorated in different ways to purify the air. They would decorate it with holly, pine cones, etc., etc. Sometimes it was anointed with wine and salt, and then they would collect the ashes and keep them to protect them against evil and lightning. In the 1600s Christianity time, the tradition would go on, but the in the homes would be much smaller. Maybe it was hard to burn a tree or burn logs. It was much easier to bake a cake. Yule logs. Now the typical Christmas colors for decorations are also very good for Yule. The green, of course, represents the evergreen, the return of the spring, of the warmth. Gold is literally the sun. Red also signifies the warmth of the fire since it's cold outside. Holly berries, strength, which is very much needed during the cold days. Sexuality and passion, which I mean is very much tied to life itself and birth and rebirth. White and silver are for purification and light. Also the snow, I mean. So these were just like a few examples of like very typical Christmas symbols that actually date from a very long time ago. Now, how can you celebrate as a modern witch? For sure, you can do everything that I just mentioned. Still, you can be with your family, which is very important. Decorate your Christmas tree with fruits and nuts, or you know, just simple regular modern decorations. But back in the day, they would decorate it with fruits as sort of offerings for the wandering spirits. And that's also, by the way, a theory as to why these regular ornaments are balls and like a circular shape. It would be to represent fruits that they used to put in trees. They would also put candles, to be fair, but that was not a good idea. Houses burned down, man. So maybe don't put real candles in your tree, but you can definitely put them around the house. As I've mentioned at the very beginning, it is a time for feasting, a time to enjoy the harvest with your loved ones, a time to get fat because it's cold outside. Good foods for that are, you know, spicy foods, ginger, nuts, cinnamon, everything that has that in there. You can do spells for protection and for abundance throughout the year to come. Good luck and health. All the spells revolving around that and prosperity are very good. You can make plans for the new year to come. Meditation is always good to just take a time to reflect on the year that has passed and the year that is to come. You can decorate your altar with Yule colors, candles. The Yule log is often not burned anymore. You can eat it as a cake, or you can just put a log with candles on it and decorate it on your altar. You can also decorate wreaths. I don't know how to pronounce that word. You can decorate such things, since the circular shape represents the wheel of the year, the cycle of life. It goes on and on and on. And I think it's a good time to remember that nothing is to be taken for granted in life, not even the sun, not even the light. I think it's a good metaphor to really appreciate things, appreciate moments, especially now during this pandemic where we literally all lost our regular lives. I just think it's a really good time to remember to really appreciate things and be grateful. Anyway, so there is so many things you can do for Yule. There's also some specific incense that you can burn, that you can make. You can make your own decorations. It's still a very festive part of the year. It really is a thing to celebrate. All right, so I'm gonna leave you on that. You can do some more research. There's plenty of information on that on the internet and in books. I really hope you found this helpful. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe to my channel. It always makes me very happy. If you enjoyed that video, send it to your witchy friend, send it, share it, comment. Let me know what you have planned for Yule this year or for Christmas. I'd really like to know, since we're not allowed to see anyone. So I'm wishing you the best. I will see you next week, and in the meantime, you can follow me on all of my social medias to see what I do in the meantime. Thank you so much for watching, and happy Merry Yule. Bye.